University education and the continuous strike by lecturers continues to dominate conversations today. Now, despite court judgments and pronouncements by the federal government, it does not look like there is an end in sight. Yes, for the frustrations that students, parents, as well as everyone who's affected in the education ecosystem actually feel. It's 1 week, one trouble. Reminds me of a book I used to read back in secondary school. Well, 1 week, one trouble for the main opposition party in the country, the People's Democratic Party. Last week, Friday, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike addressed the media in a televised broadcast. It was fun as usual. Loads and loads of allegations, including an alleged 1 billion naira accusation against the PDP chairman, Senator Iyorchia Ayu. What has been made of those accusations? How is the PDP forging ahead? Well, the PDP and ASUU strike will get us talking on another bumper package of the Newsroom, a program brought to you by Nigeria Info's Newsroom, where we take a critical look at some of the big stories that has taken place over the last 1 week. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. It feels great to be here once again. I've also got my partner in crime today. Yes, we're always committing crimes on the Newsroom. The Shaku, is it Shaku Maku, whatever it says.
Makushi,
whatever it means. You know. See, I don't want to be hearing all that Shaku, whatever.
It's the code for those who want to belong.
Belong where? you don't join cults. I'm going to tell us to make we know.
Just say Makushi,
Makushi. Don't finish, Abby.
It's over.
Okay. Anyway, we might have been laughing a few seconds ago, but the issues bedeviling tertiary education in Nigeria is nothing to write home about, I have to say. Last week, the National Industrial Court ordered the striking lecturers to return to work and call off their just over 7-month-old strike. Well, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has filed an appeal challenging the ruling of Justice Polycarp Haman and counsel to ASUU, Femi Falana, based their appeal on 14 grounds. Well, as if that was not enough, earlier today, Nigeria's federal government, through a statement signed by the Director of Finance and Accounts of the National Universities Commission, Sam Onazi, ordered vice chancellors in universities across the country to reopen and allow students to actually resume. And the question would be, is it just to open the universities and allow students to resume? The lecturers say, we are not going back to the classrooms until you sort all of the issues that we have. But the federal government is saying, no way. This is open up the schools. Well, we will talk about all of that on the show this evening because we've got somebody joining us who, you know, is capable of addressing some of these issues. He is the University of Ibadan ASUU chairman, Professor Ayola Akinwole. A very good evening to you, sir, and welcome to the Newsroom this evening.
Good evening. I'm happy to be with you. Good evening.
We are actually happy to have you because there's a whole lot to talk about as it concerns, the over 7-month-old strike. But let me start with today's order as given by the federal government in that statement that was signed by the Director of Finance and Accounts, Mr. Sam Onazi, to VCs, asking them to reopen the universities. What do you say to that?
Well, it's within the purview of the government to open their schools. It has nothing to do with trusting. The government owns the schools, and vice chancellors are their appointees, so they have the right to give directives to their appointees. But the fact remains that our members are on strike across various universities, and our services with respect to teaching and interaction with students have been withdrawn since February. So That's the station of things. We are not bothered about that. It's not directed to us.
So basically, you could argue that it's just performative actions from the federal government.
It's just a further show of the confusion that we have in the Nigerian government circle. They are exposing their confusion, or they are exposing their inability to comprehend the issues at stake, and it's most unfortunate.
Okay, so last week Friday, or rather last week Thursday, the National Industrial Court, actually ruled in the case involving your body, ASUU, and of course at the point someone in government actually said it wasn't the federal government that took ASUU to court, and all of that. But let's leave all of that conversation. The ruling from the National Industrial Court. I did listen to ASUU's lawyer Femi Falana on TV last week, talking about how the National Industrial Court should not have actually, entertained the matter in the first place. Now, an appeal has been filed, by your lawyer. What's ASUU's expectations from that appeal?
We will expect maybe this government will start respecting the rules of the nation. The government has shown their penchant for lawlessness. Is when it comes to labor, we actually have a lawless government in place. That's the truth of the matter. Because, like our lawyer said, the National Industrial Court is not a court of first instance. It is usually a court of the last resort in labor matters. But you have a government, and you also said it, if the Minister of Labor that transmitted the so-called dispute or the disagreement to National Industrial Court will come out a week later to deny what he did. Like I said earlier, we have a government of confusionists in place. And it's most unfortunate, like I said, for the interest. I mean, they are confused, obviously. I mean, the Minister of Education will say something, the same Minister of Labor will say another thing, debunking that. It's not in this government you have the spokesperson to the minister saying a 14-man panel was set up to look at issues. That same day, Minister of Education came out to debunk there was no committee. So you begin to get a clearer picture of the kind of people that are in charge of our affairs. So until they start doing the needful, this country will remain the way it is, and it wouldn't go well for us as states. They are.
Professor,
we hope maybe by the time the appeal comes up for hearing, they will start doing things properly.
Professor Kinwale, yeah, right.
Yes.
Great, yeah, Professor. But the other time when we had I think it was the national president, Professor Shevek, and we talked about the meeting between the Speaker of the House of Representatives to intervene in this whole thing, and came up together with them with an agreement. And the plan was that once the president returns from the UN General Assembly, he would be presented. And we had thought of digging further in to find out what was the agreement reached with the National Assembly, but he said he was going to keep it on the wraps until the president has seen it. Do you have any update for us, or what you want to tell us with this new development, whether there's still any hope the president can look at whatever was agreed with the Speaker of the House and then end this whole impasse?
Well, there is always hope for this country. There is always hope for any human. You don't take hope away from an entity. So there is hope. The issues will have to be resolved one way or the other. But what ASUU will stand on is the rule of law and respect for mutually agreed resolution. Like the president of the union said, when you are in discussion on issues like this, until both parties agree to all the letters in that plan agreement, no party should disclose the details to the public, because you never can say if the other party will finally agree to what you have disclosed. So on that, our union will continue to obey the law. Our union will continue to respect the labor laws, and hope maybe from today onwards, maybe government will also start doing that. So we hope very soon this issue will be resolved. We are on our respect for the people that have intervened, that they should keep it under wraps until the president have a view of what has been agreed upon before we now know how to take it up.
All right, Prof. The president came into town this morning. He's playing touchdown at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport. We here at about 6:25 a.m. or thereabout. So he's back in town. Do you have hopes that now that he is back in town, we could have light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, there is hope. We just hope that he will take it as a priority to attend to the issues concerning the lingering crisis. There is definitely hope for a resolution.
Okay, in case you just joined us, it is 27 minutes past the 6 o'clock hour. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info, the nation's #1 talk station right here in Lagos. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. I've got Oboh right here. And of course, it is the Newsroom, a show where we take a critical look at some of the big stories from the previous week. And of course, one of the big issues from last week was the ASUU strike, students blocking the road leading to the airport, caused a lot of chaos right here in Lagos. And of course, there are also plans that they were going to take it to Apapa. I think there were plans for the Abuja leg, before there were some interventions. And of course, we've got the ASUU chairman from the University of Ibadan talking about Professor Ayola Akinwole on the show this evening. Remember, you can watch us live on our YouTube channel, that's Nigeria Info FM, or on our Facebook portal, Nigeria Info 993. Professor, let's take for the benefit of someone who probably has not been in the country all this while, or people who do not have an idea what exactly the problem is that has made your union go on strike. Could you, in a nutshell, tell us why ASUU decided to down tools, and say, no, we're not doing this again until you sort this, you sort that, you sort this, you sort that. For the average Nigerian listening right now, tell us, what is it is ASUU agitating for?
Well, thank you very much. I also thank those that have taken time to join us. In a nutshell, the present strike is predicated upon government's insincerity in implementing the memorandum of act is signed with our union on December 23, 2020. You will recall the COVID-19 era of 2020, there was a strike, and based on the goodwill of so many Nigerians that intervened, pleading that the union gives government time, and then with the government promising they will attend to all the issues in that MOA, the union returned back to work on the 24th of December 2020. And that agreement that was signed on the 23rd gave timeline of when each of the contentious issues will be addressed by government. The last of which is supposed to expire June 2021. But from December 2020 up till this moment, as I'm speaking with you, government has not been faithful to implementing any of those issues. Paramount in those are the renegotiation, signing, as well as immediate implementation of a draft agreement with respect to the FDA and ASUU agreement of 2009. This government in 2017 agreed through the Minister of Labour. Thank God he's still the person there, Dr. Finzi. He signed on behalf of this government in September 2017 that government would do justice to that and complete the renegotiation. It helps Nigerians to know that that agreement is 13 years old, and there is a provision in that agreement that both parties will meet every 3 years to review the content. But up till now, not a single review or renegotiation has been done. So that is one, the renegotiation of that. You also recall the imposition of IPPIS a payment platform on the university system, which government, as all of you now know, the IPPIS is a bedrock of corruption. Even by agents of government, they have come to town to say there are a lot of problems and fraud. The Household Accountant General of the Federation is been accused of using the same IPPIS content to be solving all Nigerian problems, to siphon over 109 billion naira. So we have insisted since 2013 that IPPIS is not for the university system. And government then agreed with us, but in 2019, this government woke up one day and said and insisted the university system must also be put under the IPPIS. So we are against that. And in that MOU of 2020, the government agreed that they will put us to test the payment platform that we developed, the University Transparency and Accountability Solution. The other one will also be tested along with it, and then they will pick the one that come out of.
All right, Professor Akinwale, all right.
The immediate, I will soon round up. The immediate release of the visitation panel report, that has no monetary input. Up to now, government has done nothing. And throughout last year, our union gave close to 5 reminders, writing letters to agents of government to do the needful. The last one was in January this year, to imply it on government to avert a strike by obeying the dictates and the terms and agreements in the Memorandum of Action of 2020. So these are some of the issues that we are contending with government. Right. And that's upon which this strike is predicated. Thank you.
Right. As we try and bring the conversation to a close, there's something I want to also ask you, because as the stories have been coming in, the people have also been reacting, and it has polarized the argument, about whether the lecturers should return to the classrooms. On one hand, people have said that, well, the country isn't perfect. Some of the things you're asking for, the salaries, the rehabilitation of the universities, the revitalization. While the case is in court or while the negotiation is going on, can the lecturers resume? And then on the other hand, others have said, no, let's resolve this once and for all so we don't have to go on strike again. It's the nature of the contributions we get when we open the phone lines or we interact with the listening audience. You are the ASUU chairman in University of Ibadan, and one of the premier universities we've had for several years in the country. What will you say if you are going to assess the state of your university? Is it manageable? Is it not manageable? Or the last one, is it satisfactory, and like some other universities, you're just in the strike just to satisfy the claims that an injury to one is an injury for all? Where does the University of Ibadan fall in this whole discussion?
Well, you put so many things together, and I think I will have to clarify that.
Good.
No university on this strike on solidarity. No, that let me join the wagon. An injury to one is an injury to all.
So we strike
everybody that needs the strike. All the universities that are on strike believe in the cause of this strike. So the issue of somebody joining because an injury to one is an injury to all does not arise. That's one. University of Ibadan is the premier university. It's not one of the premier. It's the first university in Nigeria, the premier university, and nobody can controvert that. With respect to what we have, if the union, it will take a trajectory of how we got here. It was a discussion with government dating back 2012, 2013 that led to the needs assessment report, where government team also confirmed that our university needs rehabilitation with respect to teaching and training facilities. So we as a union will not wait until everything degenerates to an extent, just like we have in our primary school, where people don't have trust or faith in public primary and secondary school again. We won't wait until we get to that. And that is why this union is saying we will not leave the education sector to the whims and caprices of the ruling class that are bent in making life miserable for an average citizen of Nigeria. So the issue of classifying does not really arise here. The facilities need improvement such that we can. If you see most of our lecturers, our members, students have to grow extra by using their own resources to augment the little one that government has provided in order to ensure that our graduates operate at par with their counterparts anywhere.
Elsewhere.
So, yes.
Okay, Prof. Just one final question for me as we try to wrap this up. ASUU is in court right now trying to appeal the judgment from the National Industrial Court. Let's project and say ASUU loses this appeal, goes to the Supreme Court, and then loses again there. Projection. If this happens, what will ASUU do?
Well, when we get to any breach, the circumstances will determine what our reaction is. But going pessimistic all the way, it means you want tyranny to reign supreme. Our lawyer has said it. This case ought not to be in court. It's supposed to have been deferred to the IB. And let me correct one notion. The issue of the court ruling, if government had been proactive and sincere, what they transmitted when it started for 7 months ought to have been done last year when we were giving notice of a pending strike. That is when it becomes logical. When there is a dispute and you can't react, in order to preempt a strike coming, you send the dispute to the IAP, and then the IAP rules, and a party in either the employer or employee did not agree, believing that their interests have not been taken care of. It is that party that will now approach the NIC. So that's what we are saying. We have a government that is working upside down. So until we tell them and let Nigerians know, people in government are not done. They are not there. You don't defy them because they are there. They are there on trust for the nation. They are there in trust for the people. So it is their duty to listen to the yearning of the populace that elected them. So the issue of, because government has said something either right or wrong, people will just follow. No, we are not states and will not remain as classified as slaves. That is what the union is saying, and that's what Nigerians must believe. This struggle goes beyond the university system. Until Nigerians see that way, you cannot allow the ruling class to just do whatever they like with the resources and institutions of this country.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Just before I let you go, some bit of news that the Punch newspaper is actually reporting now. Excuse me. Remember we talked about the order given to VCs. The Punch is reporting that the federal government has actually withdrawn that circular that was actually given to VCs. Now, if this story is actually true, more or less, just acknowledging your thoughts about the confusion in government. But we'll keep an eye on that particular story, hopefully on our next news bulletin to know. But thank you very much, Professor, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much, and I thank you for the interest in the Nigeria education system. Thank you.
All right, that was, of course, the ASUU chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities at the University of Ibadan, talking about Professor Ayola Akinwole. All right, guys, let's move on the show right now. Sadly, the guest we're supposed to have for the second part of our discussion, an aide to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, could not make it for the show. So myself and Aghogho will just do some little bit of conversations here, Aghogho. Right. This rough fight that the People's Democratic Party have engaged themselves in, talking about the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who had that very interesting televised
and it's hard to even provide a transcript of that interview.
Of the interview.
You've had people reading what he said or what he did not say. And I mean, it's a complete public relation disaster.
So let's talk about the the allegations. He did accuse the PDP chairman of collecting 1 billion naira. He said, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I'll go, why are we still in this profession?
That's a lot of money.
I'm whispering. I hope you guys are not hearing. I'll go, why are we in this profession?
I have no idea.
Anyway, seriously speaking, though, it would have been great if we had someone from the guest we were supposed to have. But, I did speak to a PDP friend of mine earlier today, and he told me that, the strategy from the party was that they really did not want to talk more about that interview. You know, they didn't want to give oxygen, so to speak, to those conversations. And allegedly, we hear that they're going to carry on. Campaign starts officially on Wednesday.
Very true.
You know that they're going to carry on irrespective of the decision from the Wiki camp. But then again, you look at the situation and say, hey, this is not just about the governor of Rivers State. You know, there is the governor of I almost said Ibadan State. The governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde. There's the former governor of Ondo State, Olusegun Mimiko. That's not somebody you throw around.
Yeah.
You know, there's the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom. There's the governor of Abia State, Egbamuno. You know, there are other former governors. There's the maverick Lagos politician, Bode George, former Southwest Deputy National Chairman. You know, you look at these names.
The national spread.
You know, and you say, these are not people you just wave aside just like that. Is the PDP not setting themselves up for losing elections next year?
Interestingly, I spoke with Chris Aniagu, who is the spokesperson of the Presidential Council for the PDP earlier on, and earlier today. And I asked this question, you know, about this quid pro quo thing. You don't support me. You don't show support for Atiku Abubakar, and you know, and then you say the chairman of the party cannot follow you into the campaign season. Is either his head or we're out of the campaign council. And interestingly, the thing you say about going ahead with the campaigns is something that is also what they plan to do. Completely ignore what is happening. And even though you may not show up on the rallies for the presidential candidate, they say they're still going to go ahead and support Seyi Makinde for his second term in office. They're going to support all of the other people who have their candidates who are vying for offices too, and not bring that into the picture. On paper, it sounds like a great idea, but the question is, what happens if the aggrieved members of the party decide not to keep quiet and continue to blow this
discordant tunes,
tune right in the midst of the presidential campaign? They're not concerned that they are going to be sharing the limelight, because every single time Yisom and his fellow co-travelers go on air, it takes something away from Atiku. But maybe they don't see it that way, but rather than having them speak in favor of Atiku, they're fanning these flames of crisis rather than pushing their candidate forward. But they say that every problem they face is something for them to talk about their party. So what happens when the parties the campaign starts and you have Jonah Jang in Plateau State throw something, another one throw something there? Do they have the wherewithal to be able to confront all of these fires burning all across the nation, you know?
So here's what I think, you know, about the whole situation. First of all, now this is my personal thought. You do not have to agree. I personally think that the governor of Rivers State, you know, is I would say a bit hypocritical. You know, on one hand, he's talking about fighting for justice, equity. You know, on the surface, looks good. Because I remember that back in February, I did write a piece for Nigerian Food's website, where I was looking at the three persons I thought were Nigeria's best bet. You know, and one of my lines there was that I didn't select anybody from the north, because I felt that for fairness, for equity, for, you know, because of the kind of country we have, after 7 or is it 8 years of a northern president, you know, the unwritten rule is that you balance power. See, it might not be democratic, it might not be the way it ought to be, but the honest truth is that we have a unique situation as a country, and you have to deal with things in that unique manner. You know, so for me, I think that I'm all for a southern presidency. I'm all for someone, you know, because whether you like it or not, these things matter. You might think it does not matter, but it does matter in very little ways. You know, they matter. But that being said, you know, as great as the supposed fight for justice and equity actually is, you know, where Wike is, you know, seemingly right, he himself, in his own domain, just about 7 years ago, you know, you could argue, shattered the supposed equity and justice. The governor before him was from the upland region. If you follow River State politics very well, from the upland region, and the thing about that was that, there was that push and argument that it should go to the Riverine. So we had Rufus Ada George, who was from the Riverine axis, who was governor in the Third Republic. After him, when we came back to this political dispensation, we had Peter Odili, who's from the upland region. And after Peter Odili, we had another upland governor in Rotimi Amechi. So the conversations at the time was that in 2015, it was time for power to shift to the riverine areas. But allegedly, the wife of the president at the time, stuck her guns and said it's Wike or nothing. And so that's why you have another Ikwere man, another candidate from the upland region of the state becoming governor. And so it was more of a 16-year uninterrupted schedule. Okay, right now they've agreed that it's going to go to the riverine area. That's why you have almost all the major candidates in River State coming from that axis. So they say whoever goes to how do they say it again? That
if you
normal,
come to the table,
you have to come with equity or something.
Yes.
On one hand, the governor is supposedly fighting for justice, but he disrupted justice just about 7 years ago. So some have argued, and I think I'm in that school of thought, that it's all for their own selfish reasons. Yes, it's great to come out in public and tell us about the fight for justice and equity, which I think is right, because on a normal day you could argue, why did the PDP decide, all of a sudden. Now, let me talk about the hypocrisy from the Atiku camp. Now that issues are coming up, Atiku says, hey, I'm letting the constitution take its course. I'm a Democrat. I'll allow the people decide. And truly, the National Working Committee of the PDP has passed a vote of confidence, in Iyochiayu. So except he himself decides to resign, he's not going anywhere. Great. Absolutely amazing. But what happened to the constitution when it was time for the primaries just some months ago? What happened to all northern candidates contesting in 2018 and southern candidates, supported that? What happened now in 2022 where, the party now decided that, you know what, let's leave that part of the equation. Let's throw it open. Because at the end of the day, if you throw it open, it's always obvious that one or two persons, would have that wherewithal. So it's a conundrum. How the PDP are going to get away from it, I do not know. It would have been great, like I said, if we had our guest. But hopefully, it will not stop. Like I said in my intro, it's 1 week, one trouble.
Wilson Tago's 1 week, one trouble.
Goodness me, I just remember the cover of that book. Yeah, go ahead.
So, well, I think also too that it will be interesting, while we watch the campaigns happen, especially with the PDP, what role Yocha Ayu plays, because after they have problems with